Greetings, Bath Warriors. Greetings. Greg is here. Welcome to the Results Kill Excuses channel, where yours truly loves to share life lessons filtered through my 13-year healing journey, spiritual awakening, all the above. Doing life on life's terms, choosing sobriety over self-medication, choosing to sit in my emotions and process and heal and forgive and let go versus avoiding. And a big part of this journey is rooted in our identity, our image of self. How do you see yourself? When you think of yourself, are you thinking about a past version and thus activating a sense of grief, a sense of longing, a sense of loss of your own self because you're no longer youthful, energized, lean, mean, sexy, whatever it is from the past? Or are you so down on yourself because of choices you've made that have accumulated over the course of your life and have led you to where you're at right here, right now, and thus you're somebody that is constantly comparing yourself to others? And we all know that that is the thief of joy. And when it comes to being honest with yourself, truly knowing yourself, seeing yourself with clear eyes, I always say it's going to take a level of sobriety, mental clarity. Takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of guts for you to really start assessing yourself for who you are. And usually the assessment starts with the exterior. It's our physical appearance. It could be the weight on the scale. It could be the bags under our eyes. It could be the blubber and the flab around our belly. It could be the gray hair. It could be the loss of hair. It could be the wrinkles. And yet, when we do have the courage, the clarity, and the confidence to truly be honest with ourselves about where we are right here, right now. As you hear this message, where are you? And can you just do as I just did, which is to take a deep breath? And to have some compassion, some understanding. And ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, about the grief. There's a lot of silent, unspoken suffering happening inside of each and every one of us. And the grief that we carry is broken down into a vicious cycle that can be repetitive. It's almost like an infinity cycle. We go through one phase and just loop around to another until we go back. And it starts with denial. What are you in denial of? What do you refuse to accept? Because that is actually going from first phase to final phase, which is absolutely the place where you can heal and grow and expand and become a better version of yourself. You can truly embrace who you are, the fullness of who you are, and no longer see the bad things, the victimized things, the terrible things, the sad things, the hard things that have happened to you throughout the course of your life as points of shame, guilt, regret. You can start to transform the energy and the thoughts and the feelings around those life experiences into seeing the strength, the beauty, and the power that is hidden within these experiences. But it takes that mental clarity to say, you got to kind of stop yourself. A lot of us are at war with ourselves. We're focused on all kinds of skirmishes and battles and conflict and arguments and disagreements and dysfunction all around us, whether it's in our families, in our communities, in our country, or around the world. And I'm here to tell you that that's just a reflection. It's a magnification of what's going on inside. And at some point, if you're hearing this message, you have to get to a place like I did, which was to say, I surrender. I surrender. I give up. And in that was a moment of clarity and even some hope, because I finally got to a breaking point to where I realized I needed help. And I knew first and foremost I had to help myself before I could count on anybody else, any therapist, any peer support, any kind of family member, counselor, guidance, mentor, spiritual advisor. I knew that I had to be willing to roll up my sleeves and to help myself. But I also realized that if I was willing to help myself, that there was pretty good chance that other people were willing to help me as well. But when you're not willing to help yourself, and there are very incredible humanitarian, compassionate people all around, and maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're somebody that you get energized, you get fulfilled in helping others solve their problems. And that's a beautiful thing. However, if you're anything like me, I used to help other people while avoiding my problems, my issues. And that was another one of these places where I had to realize the grief, the denial. Second phase is bargaining, trying to negotiate with yourself. Versus just taking a stance of authority, which is really having extreme ownership over your life, accepting everything, saying, I take ownership for the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, everything in between. I take responsibility, extreme ownership of my life, because once you shift to that mindset and that spirit, and you start walking in that power of ownership, then guess what? You are now empowered to start solving these problems, to start facing these issues boldly, courageously, even with a little bit of timidity underneath the surface. You can still show up for yourself, and in doing that you can be proud of yourself, you can encourage yourself, you can celebrate yourself the way that you would celebrate someone else that you care about deeply that's going through a difficult situation but is facing it with clarity, courage, consistency, confidence, knowing that there is some hope on the other side of that. That when we face our fears, That's when we grow. That's when we expand. That's when we have the opportunity to shift our identity. That we're no longer living as cowards. That we are now living boldly and courageously. And as you shift your identity, you start to shift your mindset. You start to shift what you believe about yourself and what you truly believe is possible. And as you do that, you start to move closer towards acceptance, which is to let go, right? Full acceptance is surrendering and letting go of the guilt, the shame, the remorse, the sadness, the grief, the anger, the frustration, the hatred, the pride of being ashamed and needing to hide in the shadows, to hide the things going on, but we can now be seen and be heard. And in doing that, it's like, at first, it's like being the only if you can imagine yourself being in a mall or in a stadium, and for some reason you're the only person that showed up naked, and everyone's looking at you, everyone's staring at you. But once you accept yourself and then you realize, you know what, guess what? Then that starts to inspire others. And the analogy of being naked is to be fully seen, to be fully expressed, to be fully accepted by yourself, regardless of what other people are thinking, regardless of how your boldness, how your truth, how your authenticity triggers other people, because it will. When you're true to yourself, you're going to trigger other people to pull back, to hide even more. And they may mock and ridicule you for being so bold, but it's really just because they wish deep down inside, at a subconscious level, at a spiritual level, they wish that they could be like you, that they could have that boldness and courageous spirit about themselves to truly stand in their authority without fear of rejection, without fear of abandonment. To just say, this is me. No more hiding, no more shame. I shed it, I let it go. I accept myself. But in the acceptance, there is so much healing, an opportunity for you to change the identity, for you to change who you are, for you to start to make the improvements, as opposed to running and avoiding and hiding and acting as if you can't do it, or it's just too hard, or it's just too impossible. It's a mountain that's unscalable, and it's something that just is impossible. However, I'm here to encourage you that if you have the courage and strength, you should look up some people you look up to, and not just do some research. This is something that I coach clients on, is to do some research. Research somebody that is a role model for you. And in your research, you shouldn't just find the things that you're inspired by, that you're impressed by their successes. What you want to do is you want to find the nitty-gritty stuff, the failures, the setbacks, the hardships. And hopefully in starting to put more investment and focus into realizing that people that you look up to for whatever they've accomplished, that it wasn't a smooth path. It wasn't just an easy road. It was a road full of many hardships, but yet they started to believe in themselves more than believing in what they didn't believe about themselves, more than their fears. They believed in this vision of being something greater. But it truly does take going through the process of grief, because grief is directly attached to something in our past, which is a big sign of depression. And And a lot of us are eating our emotions, eating our feelings, going towards lots of different vices, and just even adding to the shame, to the guilt, to the lower identity, to the hatred of who you are, feeling that there's no way out when there absolutely is. But it takes you placing a bet on you. It takes you shutting down from all the distractions. I once loved sports so much, but guess what? I came to a revelation that was a lot of investment in my time and my energy, and that I could better utilize my time and energy to improve my life. And as I improve my life, maybe I go back, maybe I don't. You have that choice. It'll always be there. The entertainment and the sports will always be there. You can always watch the highlights. You can always check the scores, versus investing countless hours of your precious time in just being idle, which is it's a self-medicating habit. It's being distracted. And sometimes this process is a slow mover. I just hit a bunch of traffic on this drive, unexpected. And for some people, they can be really frustrated because, we can get in that mindset, I have to do this and I have to do that. And it's like we're on this timeline and this scheduling and this pressure. And yet, can we shift our mindset to say, you get to do these things? And it's going to be okay if you're a little late. It's going to be okay if for some reason you make it there, but you make it there. Because this life is so here today and gone the next. It flashes before our eyes. And I truly do believe that there are more and more and more, millions and millions of people beginning to awaken each and every day. And that awakening process is really just starting. It started with me with just questioning, who am I? What's going on? It was, it's really deeply rooted in spirituality. And I'm someone that's tested and tried many different religions and spiritual practices. And yet what's most important and at the forefront of my everyday life is, do I have a personal relationship with creation, with God, with all existence? And is there balance there? Or am I taking more than I'm giving? And these are all things that, as you embark on this journey, call it a healing journey, call it a spiritual journey, an awakening journey, it's just a journey where you literally go from kind of living in suffering, knowing that you're carrying around all of this trauma, these unhealed wounds that are emotionally rooted in your body. And you start to awaken and you start to kind of like snap out of it. And it's like you've almost been in a nightmare. It's almost been a dream of delusion. And yet you really start to create more clarity, which is really a place of awareness. It's having a sensitivity about life that you can literally take a moment to connect with your breath. And that's something so automatic. If given a little bit of focus, can shift your whole entire energy, your whole entire understanding, how you are showing up in life. Your nervous system can relax, can calm, can soothe just in the breath. Maybe it's just even in connecting with your heart, feeling your heartbeat. Maybe it's connecting with your thoughts and realizing if your thoughts are just continuously trying to project this lesser version of self, this failure of a human being that many of us carry around, just all this guilt, all this shame, all this sadness, all this regret. And it's like we can start to shed ourselves of it because the thoughts that keep coming up day in and day out. It's like we got to go to war with that. You got to be willing to go to war with that. That's where peace is found. It comes after a battle. Peace doesn't just exist. There usually has to be some place, a breaking point in a battle where we say enough's enough. Enough's enough. Let's stop. What are we doing? What am I doing? And you have that power. You absolutely have that power in you to make some shifts, to adjust your identity. And it doesn't come instant. A lot of people want instant, and the instant things that I've tried, because I've tried it all, they usually didn't last. It hasn't given me the long-lasting results because I truly believe there's a few ways to heal the trauma. Ideally, the way you want to heal your trauma is to get to the root, to really go and do the life review, get to the pain points in your life, like a detective. And as you start to realize all of the things when you can do your life review in real time, and you start to pick up on, man, some of the things that you've experienced, that you've survived, it's like, wow, it can be so challenging, because what it does is it triggers the emotional response as if this stuff is just happening and we want to shut down and we want to run and we want to avoid it. But it's like, can you have the courage to stay locked in? Can you have the compassion to really be neutral, to find neutrality? And when those feelings do come up, you know, the part of healing is literally experiencing the feeling and processing the feeling, sitting in it, naming it, saying, hey, I feel violated, I feel abused, I feel neglected, I feel unworthy, I feel whatever it is, fill in the blank. Get your emotional literacy to the next level by really understanding how you're feeling and where it shows up, experiencing it. We're so afraid to just experience. And through doing that, that's healing, because as you experience, you process. And as you process, that processing is an act of releasing. That's the only way to let go of emotions. You're going to release. But here's the thing. You can release it by actually, with intention, sitting in the emotion, being mindful and having intention to release negative emotion in a healthy, organized way. Or if you're anything like me for many years, the way that I would release old wounds was be through leakage. And by leakage, I mean it would seep out. Anger, hatred, sadness, guilt, grief, and I would become confrontational. I would self-sabotage relationships, circumstances, job opportunities. I would miss out on opportunities. It's like this, falling on the proverbial sword to self-sabotage, because underneath it all was a sense of feeling unworthy, which was an identity problem. I needed to shift my identity, and that's part 2 of really healing. Is 1, you need to process and release in a healthy way, and secondly, the opportunity is for you to shift your identity. And that is like a massive overhaul, because it takes reprogramming your thoughts, your beliefs. And this really is like it's like a university course. It really is like, if you're somebody that is resistant to education and school and learning, and sort of got beat down in public education and kind of have given up. I don't want to learn. I don't want to read. I don't want to write. It's like the chances of you fully grasping what I am expressing in the message and the medicine that I am prescribing right now it's going to be probably unlikely that you'll get there in this life, but you'll look for the quick fix. And I think that's what's happening right now, is a lot of people are really stirred up, and they're seeking the quick fix. They're seeking redemption. They're seeking a savior. They're seeking something to get them out of their problems. And the thing that I experienced through my journey in that direction was, it kept me believing that things were changing, but things weren't changing at the depths of who I was, who I am. And it wasn't until I had a deeper awakening with self that I really started to go and do the deep dive, do the life review, write down my beliefs. And some of this stuff, again, for those of you that are doing this work, congratulations. You're on the right track. Keep going. Those of you that are like just starting to wake up to what it is that I'm expressing here, and if you want to learn more, subscribe to the channel. My main purpose is to help you find the self-confidence and the clarity, and to communicate with absolute confidence that there is a way forward, there is a path, there is some processes that you can start embarking on with yourself that can lead to tremendous growth, healing, and expansion of who you are into a better version, leaving behind the identity of the victim, the identity of the unworthy, the identity of somebody that needs to carry around guilt and shame and anger and frustration. You can now start to reimagine a vision for your future, a vision for your life that actually starts to pull you forward in life, get you out of bed, get you up, get you working out, get you eating healthier, get you, again, it needs to be an all the above approach, because total health, optimal health, is mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health. And so once you get to the level of acceptance, if you realize that you're in a state of grief, which is what? Denial, bargaining, anger, depression. And if you're lucky, and if you truly desire it, you'll get to acceptance. But most people relapse, and they go through those vicious cycles over and over and over again, because it's like we don't realize that we can accept what has happened and allow ourselves to accept it through the filter that it has happened for our greatest good and for all of those involved. And that can feel, if you're wounded, it can feel so insensitive. It can feel like it's lacking compassion. But it's understanding that we are not just humans having a spiritual experience. We are infinite souls having a human experience. And that many of these experiences are things that were predestined to happen to us in this life for this very moment of activation, which is something that I genuinely desire to see happen in your life, that you become activated into abandoning your self-sabotaging patterns and behaviors, beliefs, and you start doing self-discovery, which is the life review, which is really sitting in the mud of your life, your story, cleaning yourself off, releasing, and doing it with what? Compassion, understanding, forgiveness, grace. And not only for you, but for all of those involved. It's a powerful thing for you to have this identity shift and to be activated. And I know I'm reaching somebody right here, right now. And I will continue to put this message out. If you're looking for something, a resource, something to really kind of start holding yourself accountable on a daily basis, I want to share with you something that I have created from my experience along this journey, as I had many people come to me. I've coached many people, and I've had many people come to me asking me, How do you do this? How do you do that? And yet, check out the link, the product link in the video or in the description down below for what I call the Results Kill Excuses 1% Better Everyday Journal. Today's an exciting day for me because I get to ship out a journal to another person. In here is another journal, it's another opportunity, it's another person saying, yes, my time is now. And it takes a level of self-accountability. But in that, it is me giving you a resource that will absolutely guide you in the most simple way to follow. But it takes you showing up for yourself, and it takes you reallocating wasted time for intentional time. And usually the best time to do that is in the morning, for you to invest time in trying to figure yourself out, processing these emotions as I've talked about, reprogramming your negative thoughts through affirmations, and starting to sift through the muckiness and the density of who you are and who you've been showing up as. And if there's areas in your life that you would love to see different, you absolutely can start tapping into the power and the energy and the focus that it will require for you to actually develop yourself to be that person. But it does start in the mind. Being healthy doesn't start with working out. Being healthy starts with saying, I am healthy. I eat healthy. I love eating healthy meals. I love eating just enough superfood to keep me in an optimal health state of being, to keep me lean. When you start telling yourself that and start believing it, and then you start having an identity shift where, guess what? Healthy, optimal people, guess what they do? They exercise on a regular basis. They're active. They do intense cardiovascular exercise, getting into that fat burn. And then after, they eat a healthy meal. They release the need for processed foods, sugary foods, starchy foods, and they start to move into whole foods. They learn how to start cooking. But it starts in the mind. It starts with a belief that you can be healthy. But you have to start believing it and having a willingness and an openness to make whatever changes are necessary. Because ultimately, I think it's a major influencer that said this, and I can't quote him at this moment, but it really boils down to, if you're looking to be more financially successful, you want to be more fit and active, you want to be more sexy, you want to be whatever it is, whatever you can see for yourself that you're not right now. Again, it's that research of researching people that are doing that very thing, that are living that very life. And it's not actually emulating what are they doing. It's trying to get so deep and so